As difficult of a time as it's been here the last couple of weeks, the silver lining has been the national pride in being part of Am Yisrael, which is palpable here in the country. You walk down the street and you see massive Israeli flags covering buildings. You see banners that say Am Yisrael Chai and Together We'll Succeed. It's a beautiful thing to see, and it's a very powerful thing to be a part of. It's hard not to feel proud in who we are and what it is we stand for. But as I'm seeing more and more abroad, both in college campuses and in other public spaces, Jews are being subject to an increasing amount of antisemitism and to overall hateful and violent rhetoric from people who are vocally supporting terrorists over their victims. Now, I've received tremendous support from my family and friends abroad in this difficult time, and I would like to reciprocate and share some of the national pride that I have been getting from being in Israel at this time with family and friends abroad who may be having a hard time holding their head high and being proud of who they are and what they believe in the face of a violent surroundings that's trying to make them feel ashamed of who they are and where they came from. I just wanted to share a couple ideas that I think express very powerfully the unique role of the Jewish people and the unique nature of the Jewish people. Rav Kook explains the critical role that Klal Yisrael plays in society, in world society, is as follows. Every major society has their ideology, and ideologies are rooted in ideas. Now, ideas come from God. Ideas are divine. However, the issue is if you take one idea and try to fix all of your problems with it. If you look at all of society's issues through the narrow scope of a singular lens, equality, freedom, or justice, or mercy, all of these things are great things, but they don't fully solve every problem. They can solve some problems, they can partially solve certain problems, but truly the only way to have a proper society is to know how to take all values and integrate them appropriately. You cannot have a society that is only about freedom and doesn't have rules. You can't have a society that's only about equality and where you would do anything to force people to be equal in spite of their freedom. You can't have a society that only knows justice and no mercy. You can't have a society that only knows mercy and doesn't know justice. Every major society has taken one or two of these values and crafted their society and their government and their culture around these ideas in a disproportionate and inappropriate fashion. The only way to have a proper, appropriate society is to know exactly how to balance all ideas, how to know exactly how to run a society that integrates every value in an appropriate way. That, explains Rav Kook, is the uniqueness of the Torah and the critical role that the Jewish people play. The Torah has all values in it. The Torah is not hesitant to be merciful when it's necessary and not hesitant to be just when it's necessary, and even in a harsh fashion. The Torah is not hesitant to give freedoms, and the Torah is not hesitant to give responsibilities. The Torah incorporates all values in a perfect and harmonious way. Klal Yisrael has the job of putting together the perfect society in accordance with the Torah. Not to tell other societies, your ideas are wrong, your ideas are bad. Rather, your ideas have a place. Everything has a place. You just need to know how to appropriately balance them. This is what the Torah brings, and only the Torah brings, and this is what Klal Yisrael can do for the world, and only Klal Yisrael can do for the world. The Maharal speaks at length about the unique nature of Klal Yisrael, in particular within the context of the rest of the world. The Maharal asks, why is it that the Jewish people are always either the top of the top or the bottom of the bottom? There's no in between. Either we're leading in every field and we're elevated by God above the entire world, or we're stepped on trampled upon, killed, expelled, oppressed, persecuted. How can this be? How can it be that a nation God chose for something great spends so much time, spends so much of their national history being stepped on by everyone else in the world? And he explains this has everything to do with who we are and what we're meant for. See, every nation is built. We spoke a little bit about ideology. Every nation, though, is first and foremost built by their surroundings. Right? You occupy a physical location. You get together and you form alliances and partnerships. You realize that you're able to protect yourself and others by working together economically and militarily. Then you start to form something like a culture of your society, and finally an ideology and a system of values. What brought everyone together was their physical location, and their ideology was not an afterthought, but developed beyond that point. Only once they solidified their physical existence, they would start working on their values and their beliefs. Klal Yisrael was the exact opposite. Klal Yisrael was not brought together by their physical proximity. Klal Yisrael was brought together by their ideology, by their beliefs. We received the Torah in the desert, and we were taken out of Egypt for that purpose. And only afterward did we get a land. Only afterward were we tasked with protecting that land. Only afterward were we tasked with putting together a government. We are beliefs and ideology first, everything else second. The rest of the world is physical proximity first, and values and ideology second. Someone born in Germany who adopts the values of their society, had that same person been born in Russia, would have adopted the values of their society. But the Jewish people were dictated, forged by their beliefs, and only afterward received a land. Explains the Maharal, that's very significant. To be a society defined by your physical location, your physical strength, your physical numbers, as opposed to a society defined first and foremost by your beliefs. It says if you're a society defined first and foremost by your beliefs, when you don't have those beliefs, or when you're not living up to those beliefs, when you're not living up to those values, well, if that's how you define yourself, then you're nothing. If it was just an afterthought, then you still have your strength, you still have your numbers, you still have your location, you still have your defenses, you still have your securities. You may have lost your values, but you have everything else. Yeah, but if you're a society that's defined by your values, then if you're not living up to those values, you have nothing. However, when you do have those values, and you're a society which defines yourself by those values, then you have the opportunity to serve as a light to the entire world. Then you have the opportunity to shine brighter than anyone else, because you define yourself by what's important and you live what is important to its very fullest. That's why the Jewish people, explains the Maharal, are either the top or the bottom. We define ourselves by what's valuable. So when we can hold on to that, when we live by that, we're a shining light. But when we don't, we're nothing. When we don't, we lose everything that's important. My message to my family and friends around the world is to keep your head up, be proud of who you are, embrace what it is that you believe, and realize that this is just a speed bump on the path to impacting the entire world in the image of God by the instruction of the Torah. Shabbat Shalom.